Welcome to Study Session 11, Security Dilemma and International Cooperation. Introduction. The idea of forming international security forces to replace national military forces is to ensure international peace through mutual military cooperation among states. In this study session, the concept of collective security will be examined. The theory that guides collective security will also be examined. Students are expected to understand why states engage in international cooperation through collective security. In addition, the UN idea of collective security will be analyzed. Thereafter, regional-based collective security will be examined. Examples will be taken from North Atlantic Treaty Organization, NATO, Organization for Security and Cooperation in Europe, OSCE, and the Economic Community of West African States Monitoring Group, ECOMOG. Learning outcomes. When you have studied this study session, you should be able to 1. Discuss the reasons why states engage in international cooperation through collective security. 2. Distinguish between collective security and balance of power. 3. Examine some regional-based collective security organizations. Security dilemma. The fundamental principle underlying contemporary interstate relations, that is, sovereignty, helps to explain driving forces behind arms acquisition and arms races, as well as the difficulties associated with arms control. Sovereignty means that states exist in a formally anarchic environment. No legitimate or legal authority is empowered to control, direct, or watch over the behavior of sovereign states. One consequence of such a system of sovereign states is that each state must in the end look out for its own security, protection, and survival. From the foregoing, self-help in the international system means that each state must take measures to provide for its own defense. A tragic flaw of the formally anarchic state system is that the requirement for self-help often leads to what has come to be known as security dilemma. In this sense, the security dilemma is central to many aspects of interstate relations, besides arms race, and analogous forms of competitive state behavior appear in international political economy as well, as we shall see in our subsequent discussion. Collective security and regional arrangements. Collective security has been commonly regarded as the most promising of all the approaches to peace. It seeks to confront would-be aggressors with the concerted power of states determined to keep the peace. Since the World War I, the concept of collective security has been persistently advocated and attacked, defended, and criticized. It has figured prominently in the theoretical and ideological debate concerning the management of international relations. Although it appears to be simple and almost self-explanatory, the concept is in reality a complex and elusive one. It has been defined by George Schwarzenberger as machinery for joint action in order to prevent or counter any attack against an established international order. It clearly implies collective measures for dealing with threats to peace. Basically, collective security implies far-reaching commitments and obligations on the part of the majority of the states of the world, including all or at least most of the great powers. It is clearly incompatible with neutrality and with a balance of power policy, except under most unusual conditions of balanced stability over a period of time. To be sure, collective security and balance of power policy are incompatible because the object of the one is to align all states against an offending or war-making state, whereas the other contemplates the maintenance of such an equilibrium of power that no state will dare undertake to resort to arms. The substance of the first is a walled front against a possible aggressor. The substance of the second is two approximately equal and opposing fronts. Collective security also implies a far greater degree of systemization than does balance of power. For collective security systems to be effective, it must be strong enough to cope with aggression from any power or combination of powers, and it must be invoked if and as aggression occurs. The principle of collective security requires that states identify their national interests so completely with the preservation of the total world order, and that they stand ready to join the collective action to put down any aggressive threat by any state against any state anywhere. Thus, it involves a willingness to apply sanctions as and when necessary, and even to go to war. If the UN reflects their lack of shared values and common purpose characteristic of a global community, perhaps regional organizations whose members already share some interests and cultural traditions offer better prospects. The kind of wars raging today do not lead themselves to control by a worldwide body, because these conflicts are now almost entirely civil wars. The UN was designed to manage only international wars between states. It was not organized or legally authorized to intervene in internal battles within sovereign borders. This, however, is not the case for regional institutions. Regional organizations in Europe. North Atlantic Treaty Organization, NATO. The NATO is the best known regional security organization. NATO encompasses Western Europe and North America. Using GDP as a measure of power, the 28 NATO members possess nearly half the world total. Members are the United States, Canada, Britain, France, Germany, Italy, Belgium, the Netherlands, Luxembourg, Denmark, Norway, Ireland, Spain, Portugal, Greece, Turkey, Poland, the Czech Republic, Hungary, Lithuania, Estonia, Latvia, Slovenia, Slovakia, Bulgaria, Romania, Albania, and Croatia. At NATO headquarters in Brussels, Belgium, military staffs from the member countries coordinate plans and periodically direct exercises in the field. The NATO Allied Supreme Commander has always been a U.S. general. In NATO, each state contributes its own military units with its own national culture, language, and equipment specifications. NATO was founded in 1949 to oppose and deter Soviet power in Europe. Its counterpart in Eastern Europe during the Cold War, the Soviet-led Warsaw Pact, was founded in 1955 and was disbanded in 1991. During the Cold War, the US maintained more than 300,000 troops in Europe with advanced planes, tanks, and other equipment. After the Cold War ended, these forces were cut to about 100,000. But NATO stayed together because its members believed that NATO provided useful stability even though its mission was unclear. Article 5 considered the heart of NATO, asked members to come to the defense of a fellow member under attack. It was envisioned as a US commitment to help defend Western Europe against the Soviet Union, but instead was invoked for the first time when Europe came to the defense of the United States after the terrorist attack in 2001. The biggest issue for NATO is its recent eastward expansion beyond the East-West Cold War dividing line. In 1999, former Soviet bloc countries, Poland, the Czech Republic, and Hungary, joined the alliance. Joining in 2004 were Estonia, Latvia, Lithuania, Slovakia, Slovenia, Romania, and Bulgaria. In 2009, Albania and Croatia accepted membership in NATO. Making the new members' militaries compatible with NATO was a major undertaking, requiring increased military spending by existing and new NATO members. African Union and collective security. At the turn of the century, the 53-member Organization of African Unity, an IGO with few powers, reformed as the African Union, a stronger organization with a continent-wide central bank and court. The African Union's first real test came with the allegations of genocide in the Darfur region of Sudan in 2004. In response, the AU deployed 3,000 troops, but their effectiveness has remained limited. However, the AU's new security regime is predicated on collective security to be operationalized by the African Standby Force, ASF, an early warning system, EWS, a panel of the wise, PW, and a peace fund, PF. The core peace and security decision-making institutions include the Assembly of Heads of State and Government, the Peace and Security Council, and the Commission of the AU. Although the AHSG makes the final decision on important peace and security issues such as the intervention in member states of the AU, the PSC, which will meet regularly at the permanent representative level, is empowered to take most decisions on security issues on behalf of the AHSG. The AHSG will, however, meet at least once a year to review the work and activities of the PSC as part of its oversight of the AU. According to the AU's policy framework for the establishment of the ASF, drafted in May 2003, it comprises a system of 5 regionally managed multidisciplinary contingents of 3,000 to 4,000 troops and between 300 and 500 military observers, police units, and civilian specialists on standby in their countries of origin. These regional standby brigades will be placed under the operational control of the AU or the UN once deployed. The standby force is authorized to engage in the observation and monitoring of ceasefires, peace support missions, the intervention of member states to restore peace and security, preventive deployment to prevent conflicts from spreading or escalating, or to prevent the resurgence of violence after parties to a conflict have reached an agreement, peace building, especially disarmament and demobilization, and the promotion of humanitarian assistance. Economic Community of West African States Monitoring Group, ECOMOG, having no instrument to guide its involvement in what was perceived by some, including some members of ECOWAS itself, as an internal matter, ECOWAS established a 5-member standing mediation committee in May 1990, tasked to mediate the Liberian and future conflicts in the sub-region. This was a pioneering move in an organization whose mandate on formation in 1975 did not include peacekeeping and mediation. The ECOWAS Community Intervention Force is composed of standby multipurpose modules from member states ready for immediate deployment. According to the Article 22 of the Mechanisms Protocol, ECOMOG can be responsible for the following missions: observation and monitoring, peacekeeping and restoration of peace, humanitarian intervention, enforcement of sanctions, including embargoes, preventive deployment, peace building, disarmament and demobilization, ad policing activities, including the control of fraud and organized crime, through its collective security strategy. ECOMOG has succeeded in restoring peace in Liberia, Sierra Leone, and Cote d'Ivoire. Summary of study session. In this study session, we noted that collective security implies measures for dealing with threat to peace. It is not the same as balance of power. While balance of power contemplates the maintenance of power that no state will dare undertake or resort to arms, collective security is a responsibility conferred on every nation within the international system to combine efforts in the direction of nipping a crisis situation at the bud so as to avoid it degenerating into an uncontrollable proportion. It has been established in line with the UN principles of maintaining world peace. Some are regional based, while others are sub-regional ones. Examples include NATO, OSCE, and ECOMOG. We have come to the end of study session 11. Thank you.